The German presidency is a largely ceremonial position, but the holder of this office is expected to set a moral and ethical example. Christian Wulff hasn't held the post for long, just over 18 months, and he wants to stay, despite the allegations raised about his integrity. Steadfastness has long been viewed as one of his strong points.
He sees no reason at all to step down. As he always used to say, as long as I've got a clear conscience, I'll carry on and keep doing my thing. And I think it's just the same situation now. He just doesn't see any reason to step down.
Journalist Armin Feurer is in demand for interviews these days. He wrote a biography of Christian Wulff, the only one so far, during the time Wulff was state premier of Lower Saxony. In it, he described Wulff as a marathon man, a politician with stamina and endurance who has had to wait for every major success. Even when he was elected president, it was only on the third ballot. And Wulff had to wait years for the chance to become premier of Lower Saxony.
I've always learned more from defeats than victories. And if you bear in mind that it took me 9 years and 3 attempts to become premier of Lower Saxony, then my election to the post of president by the Federal Convention went relatively quickly.
But now the laughter has faded, and Christian Wulff is trying to weather the worst storm of his career. Enthusiasm for Wulff among the conservative parties seems to have faded as well. Much of the talk about him these days is in whispers. Many representatives just want to put the matter behind them, even if it means Wulff's resignation. Fellow party members now tend to limit statements to the official line.
I'd really like him to address all the issues with openness and transparency and answer all the questions. We need an appraisal, and then one way or another, the matter has to be closed once and for all.
The CDU leadership is remaining silent on the Wulff affair. The party is ahead in the polls, and they want to keep it there. At a closed session of the Executive Committee in Kiel, the Chancellor demonstrated how to avoid the subject.
I have nothing to add to what I've said in recent days.
Christian Wulff is also giving the appearance of a return to normalcy as head of state, welcoming ambassadors, attending receptions and ceremonies. The wounded president is trying to take refuge in the routine of his office, but reporters keep firing questions at him about private loans, abuse of privileges, and distortions of the truth.
I wouldn't want to go over the past few days and weeks of my life again. So I hope you'll appreciate that, now that the year 2012 has started, we ought to devote ourselves again to the real tasks at hand.
That may prove to be wishful thinking. As head of state, the president is in the spotlight. Every appearance has become a public grilling, no matter what it was officially intended to be. The president has to represent Germany and embody a moral authority. If his integrity is in doubt, then that of the office is as well.
If, for instance, he wanted to take a position on the lending practices of the major credit institutions during this financial crisis, which he's already done once, and yet he himself has acted dubiously or improperly in such matters, then of course his credibility and the moral positions, as well as the normative premises he has to formulate, would all collapse.
The effectiveness of a president depends on his ability to command attention and on the credibility of what he says. This is the crux of Christian Wulff's problem. He might do well to remember his own words from 2006. Back then, he sharply criticized former Chancellor Gerhard Schröder for allegedly favoring Russian energy giant Gazprom with his policies while in office and then accepting a lucrative position with the company after leaving office.
We must avoid the impression that somebody might be acting not just for the common good, but for his own good when making political decisions. That destroys citizen confidence in the government.
Christian Wulff's skills as a political survivor are still being tested, and his dreams of being a highly respected German president continue down a nightmarish path.